We are live in the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling. All right, welcome to the channel, guys. Apologies if you couldn't hear me there. I hope you can now. Seth Rollins has won the World Heavyweight Championship. All right, we'll be back after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
And there we have it, guys. The show is still on the air, but it's about to finish. Seth Rollins has done it again. The ruse of the century this time, says Michael Cole. It's not the heist this time. I said it on the build-up show earlier on. How do you top what you did at WrestleMania when you cashed in the first time? This is how you do it, guys. An incredible moment. All right, the show is just going off the air now. But wow, what a way to end it. Night one of SummerSlam is in the books, guys, and we are here to break down the card and all the results and big stories coming out of it as well. As Seth sits in the ring, looking perfectly healthy, as expected. Look, I thought that was going to happen, and it did happen. Don't get me wrong, there are predictions I made about tonight that didn't come to fruition, but I just had a feeling as soon as he landed on that knee against LA Knight that it wasn't real. Now I know they're gonna, people will be out there and they're gonna be saying, look, oh, you didn't really know, but I just had a feeling. And look, I'm not the only one, don't get me wrong, but it felt like that's what this was. When he landed on his knee, I remember saying there and then, this is fake. He's cashing in. Don't get me wrong. I thought he was cashing in that night, maybe in the other match. But no, he was cashing in at SummerSlam to close night one of the first ever two-night SummerSlam by screwing over CM Punk. Let me know what you think, guys, of the show overall. Sludge Sports in the house. Good to see you back, buddy. So Seth might have just passed Jeff Hardy as one of my favorite wrestlers. It was a big, big moment. A really, really enjoyable moment. But I want to know in the comments, guys, what have you thought of tonight's events? What did you think of that ending there? Of course, we're going to break down the rest of the show as well. But yeah, we've got to start off really with a big, big story, and that is the fact that CM Punk did become World Heavyweight Champion in a very, very touching moment, only for Seth Rollins' music to hit, and he comes out, pretends to still be injured, and then does the reveal. It was magnificent. And I tried to go live as quick as I could just so I can kind of react to it, but a few technical issues, so apologies for that. But hey, you're with us now. And I want to know what you guys thought of not just the ending, of course, of SummerSlam Night 1 overall. We will be back tomorrow, of course, covering Night 2 in depth. But on tonight's build-up show, it was all about, for me, trying to find time to talk about this big CM Punk Gunther match, because I felt like, again, all along, that Seth Rollins was going to cash in, and he did, and it was a great moment. Look, we'll touch on that in more detail very soon. We'll break down the card overall, and again, talk about all the big moments throughout the show. But as I say, it's closed with CM Punk finally winning gold in WWE again, only for it to be snatched away so cruelly, but perfectly storyline wise from Seth freaking Rollins, his arch rival, it would seem, in the WWE in this kind of era at least. Sludge says, I actually enjoyed it really lately. I'm not been liking WWE at all, but decided to tune into SummerSlam, and yeah, really enjoyed it. Good for you, Sludge. Hope you have had a great night enjoying SummerSlam. I did think it was a decent show. I got to be honest. Maybe it's because I'm a little tired, but I just felt like it wasn't spectacular. There was not a lot kind of making... I wasn't that excited about coming on air to do the instant reaction review, because I just felt like I was going to probably be maybe a little bit downbeat about it, and a little bit... No, I don't want to be negative, but realistically, I think there were just a lot of results tonight that I was confused by. It felt like a common theme, like a good match, but then not what I would have done, sort of thing, finish wise, as far as decision wise, and pushing storylines in certain direction. But overall, I've got to say, it wasn't a bad show, and it ended with a huge moment again. If you're just tuning in, of course, CM Punk became World Heavyweight Champion only for Seth Rollins to ruin a party, as expected by some of us. Yeah, it was a huge ending to a first night of SummerSlam. Let's get some more comments here. Sludge says, it wasn't the best, but I was entertained by the matches. I think that's exactly where I'd go with it as well. And this is interesting, right? Again, it's the first ever 2-night SummerSlam. WrestleMania has this kind of same, effect, really, where you're watching it, but it's hard to judge it when you haven't seen the whole package of the two nights. I was thinking, though, if I was there at MetLife, I mean, I've been privileged enough, as I said on the build-up, to go to MetLife twice for WrestleManias. It's a pain to get back to New York from, though. And if I'd stayed there throughout the night, I would have just felt like, I've got to do all this again tomorrow. It would have just reminded me of that, which sounds a bit kind of, I don't know, picky, but it's just... It just didn't feel like a spectacular event until the ending. I would be over the moon if I was there live at the moment that I got to witness something like that. So I hope those out in New Jersey are feeling that way. But let's get to the rest of the show. Again, it wasn't a bad show. It was just a show where just not the results I was kind of hoping for, maybe, or expecting. Started out in a big way, though. As we mentioned earlier on the build-up show, it was going to open with... Jey Uso and Roman Reigns versus Seth's Bodies, who, again, when I was doing my predictions, kind of led into that a little bit. As far as my predictions for this match was kind of, affected by what I thought was going to happen in the main event, which again was that Seth Rollins was going to come back. So I actually felt like Jey and Roman would probably win for that reason. And they did. It opened up very well. I mean, before it opened to this match, to be fair, Cardi B come out, which I completely forgot about until I saw, just as we were coming off air from the build-up show, people mentioning her. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's the host, right? She did all right. She seemed excited. She seemed to play her part, and she was clearly reading off some sort of auto cue or something like that. But yeah, I thought it was quite enjoyable. A performance from her as far as a big celebrity goes, and we'll talk a little bit more about celebrities later on with Jelly Roll and things like that. But yeah, not a bad way to open it. And yeah, as far as opening match, really enjoyable. Again, really enjoyed seeing Bronson come out with the shoes wrapped around his neck. Then we had the ones in the air, which I thought was quite interesting, from Jey in the ring as he watches his cousin Roman Reigns come out and do it, of course, on the wrap. Talking about entrances, though, they start the match and Jey wants to kind of rewind it and go back into Yeet mode, and Roman's all for it, except he gets pulled out of the ring and he's stopped by Bron Breakker. there was some really cool spots in this. Bron Breakker stopping the tag, I thought was incredible. The way he pulled, he dove, basically did the American football or a rugby challenge, essentially to stop Jey Uso from getting to Roman Reigns and making a tag. Talking about diving, that was amazing. I mean, Roman's dive over the top rope was kind of scary looking, but also really cool and impressive. It did a few Superman punches as well to kind of stop people kind of taking advantage on the opposite team. He does one to Braun as Braun sets up for his run. It does around the ring. He does another one to Bronson Reed as he tries to hit the tsunami. And then eventually ends up spearing Braun through the barrier on the outside as well. We got a 1D, which is pretty cool from instead of Jimmy and Jay, it's from Roman and Jay, of course. I was going to say Roman and Ray. And only gets a 2 count because it is broken up by Bron Breakker. Bron takes his straps down. I think I saw this right. Again, I know I said I was tired, but he takes his straps down twice. And I think I saw that because even the commentators kind of played into it, like just acting like he was a bit crazy, but a bit of a weird spot there. But hey, it is where it is. If that's what happened, yeah. Roman pushes Jay out of the way and basically saves Jay, but kind of at the expense of himself. And a bit of a noble gesture there from Roman Reigns. They really amped this up on commentary, talking about how Roman's never really been like that before. And I thought it was a good way to tell the story. Jay eventually picks up the win with the spear and the Uso splash. And then Roman is basically selling pretty impressively, laying in the ring, but still locked eyes on Paul Heyman and shouting at him. I do think that might be where we start going next as well, as far as we talked about earlier on, maybe Roman Reigns going after Seth Rollins now that Seth Rollins is World Heavyweight Champion. You heard that right. Jay putting the Ulafala on top of around Roman's neck was a nice little touch as well. But yeah, a pretty fun opener. Exactly what I expected, to be honest. But again, that's not a negative thing. It was a fun match and a fun way to start the show as well. Right, let's have a little look at these comments here as well. Sludge says Braun and Bronson should be tag champs. I mean, I can see it going that way now, especially that we've got gold around the waist of their mentor, of course, and Seth Rollins. So yeah, I do envision something like that happening sooner rather than later, if I'm honest. Then we moved into talking about where tag team gold did change hands. Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, representing, of course, the Judgment Day. They lost their tag titles to Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. And again, another fun match. I mean, at this stage, I'm having a good time on this show because it was kind of expected stuff, but like still enjoyable. There's a bit of a weird thing between this where there was a bit of a super messy production issue with loads of camera cuts and changes, stuff like that. I mean, who am I to talk? I was in such a panic trying to come on here live talk about the Seth Rollins thing that I messed up as well. But yeah, it was just a little bit kind of messy. It's always odd when they show ads and then they mute them because they're not something we can see in the UK, for example. The Minute Maid stuff. I think they said, like, Michael Cole said the word minute and then he got muted. It sounded like he just forgot what he was going to say. But really, again, I've noticed this a few times. It's, apparently something to do with advertising regulations and stuff like that. So, yeah, bit odd because it also came in a period where they showed, who was it? It was, I can't remember, one of the celeb features where they show someone, then they show someone else by accident and they go back, and then it was really kind of clunky. Then there was a shot where like it was a camera just sitting in the ring, all over the place. But hey, many things can go wrong when you've got that many spinning plates, right? So who am I to talk? Now, nothing went wrong in the match itself, though. Really enjoyable. Bliss and Charlotte had a cool entrance together, essentially, where they're quite playful and playing into front of a get-go, really. Who has their better connection? Both teams where they're kind of new to each other and not really friends, but who is going to have that better connection? And it ended up being the newer team who are really not friends, Bliss and Charlotte, as opposed to Raquel and Roxanne, who were the tag team champs, seemingly all going rosy in the Judgment Day. But you got to think something's going to change now if Liv comes back into the picture and starts asking questions essentially about what happened here. But as I say, the match itself really good. Charlotte hit a really cool moonsault onto both her opponents. Only gets the 2. Bliss hits Charlotte, and Roxanne, I think, is pulled. away. Then there's a Kahana bomb. Then you got the pop rocks. This is broken up by Bliss, where there's only a 2 again. A great tease at the end of the match where you see Charlotte in the corner looking like she might go after Bliss because she's angry. Because, like I say, Bliss hit Charlotte. I think it was Roxanne that was pulled away. And it was a really kind of awkward moment, of course, playing into, can they coexist? That typical thing. But I think it was pulled off really well. And like I say, that image of Charlotte in the corner, ready to kind of attack, but you don't really know who she's going to attack. If the rage is going to get too much for her, and she doesn't. She goes after her opponent. She sticks with her not so friend, but Bliss. And I thought it was a fantastic tease. She hits the kick on Raquel Rodriguez to protect the setup of the Sister Abigail DDT. And a really, really fun way to end the match. And, kind of just continue to in my opinion, at this stage, put the show in a positive direction. There was an aggressive hug between the two, which again played into their kind of character and the storyline they're telling at the moment. Really, really fun. And it was essentially not what me and Andy on the build-up show were fearing, which is that they would basically, pull the trigger too early and Charlotte would turn heel and it'd just be the same old stuff again. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Hopefully it gets to a point, a bit like a Team Hell No situation with Kane and Daniel Bryan, where, they admit they're friends and that kind of stuff. So before eventually there's a turn where it's actually meaningful. And as Andy said, that could be Bliss making the turn rather than Charlotte. So I do think there's a few interesting stories that they could tell here with this match. Sludge agrees, really says, I love Charlotte and Alexa. I think they've been working really well together, and I think it's given a new lease of life essentially to Charlotte and her character, as we again said on the build-up show earlier on. It was a great discussion. Again, I know the whole idea of those streams is to preview the big PLEs, but if you do go back and watch it, you'll see exactly what I mean. We kind of try to map out a possible scenario for this team going forward, and as I say, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do here. But at this point, 2 out of 2, I was enjoying both matches and both results. I'm not always a fan of tag team titles going to 2 solo acts essentially, but look, where the storyline makes sense, I'm okay with it. I did think it was an enjoyable match, and I think it makes sense for their characters and their story going forward. It felt like they were building towards something, even just when they first put them together, so it's starting to make sense now. There was a Papa John's little kind of promo segment in the backstage where it was basically mid-carders. But I've got to say, Xavier Woods, I mean, he's a man holding a pizza slice, but he's in incredible shape at the moment. Is it just me, or something happened there? I'm not saying he was a slouch or anything like that, but he's looking cut. Anyway, but he's having some pizza backstage, and him and Kofi are still mourning their loss of the tag titles. I'm in two minds about that. I like it, but it's just another great slap in the face of, well, they didn't really do much with their heel turn, did they? But anyway, next up, and in that, by the way, Nikki Bella ends up being the main star essentially and saves the day with all the pizza. Not really much storyline progression there, but hey, that's what happens on the show, just so you know what that segment was. Then we move into, I think, where I really started to dip in this show. Cross and Scarlett come out and they felt like stars. I know there's a lot of rumors going around at the moment, and myself and Andy talked about this again on the build-up. Possibly one of the last appearances for Karrion Kross, or not. Maybe he's got a new contract. Who knows? But he's been in this prominent position as of late, the past few months, and it's been something that we've really enjoyed, discussing on this channel. And my big thing was I was disappointed that he didn't win at Night of Champions, and I thought, well, he's got to win here tonight, and he didn't again, and it just felt a waste. Now, I know some people are seeing it as no, it's Sammy's first kind of bit of story to tell on his way to becoming world champion. But I don't know. I think I like the idea of him maybe losing a little bit more, or it just felt like there was nothing for Kross to gain out of this. If it is because he's leaving, then fair enough. Like I said earlier on again on the build-up, pushing him to the moon right before he leaves and goes to a competitor is probably not a great idea business-wise anyway. But was it just a ploy to kind of get him to re-sign? Will he re-sign? Has he re-signed? We don't know. But I wasn't the biggest fan of this result. As much as I like Sammy, I just felt like it wasn't the right decision. But what happens in this show, in this match, we'll kind of go through some of the highlights here. Cross and Scarlett, as I say, they come out feeling and looking like stars. When Sami Zayn's music hits and they they chant the "Let's Go," that's when you're like, yeah, but Sami is a star. And this is a conversation I've had on this channel many, many times before. I think he should have been world champion already, and I really do hope he gets that opportunity. We've talked about a little bit lately, but him winning in Saudi at the Rumble is a possibility, I think. So we'll see where he goes in the future. But it didn't really do much for Scarlett and Cross, unfortunately. Just makes them look a bit silly, in my opinion. Cross fails to use the pipe. Sami does get aggressive, and I get the story they're telling, but like I don't know if the end execution is ideal. And look, I've seen plenty of times where people say, "Oh, watch how it plays out," especially people like Triple H. Maybe Sami, maybe Cross is going to get something big coming around the corner. I don't know, but if this was it, then I don't know. I don't know if I feel satisfied. Essentially, Scarlett eventually, ironically, gives the pipe to Sami, which most scenarios like that would lead you to think, oh, that's a turn. She's just turned on her husband. But that weren't the case. I don't think that they even expected people to feel that way. But obviously, the story they're telling is whether or not Sami will give in and use the pipe. What if he did? Like, I know they're all mind games, and that's the whole character that those two are, kind of working with at the moment. But what if it backfired? It kind of did backfire anyway. He threw it aggressively and it bounced off the floor. I was worried for a split second it might bounce off and hit a fan, but thankfully it didn't. He's distracted though. There's a roll up, only gets to 2, and then just very quickly after that, exploder into the corner, haluva kick, and the 3 count. And my note straight after that is just disappointing. As I say, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And it's frustrating because, again, this is where I started to dip in kind of my enjoyment of the night, because for me, it's just a wrong decision. And you could argue, well, we don't know that because we don't know where we're going yet. But for me, it's sucked the life out of the event at this stage, which is a real shame because I enjoy the work of everyone involved here. And I know you can't always get what you want, right? You can't always get the result that you think is the correct one, but I couldn't have been the only one that felt like that was a mistake. Karrion deserved that, says Sludge. Deserved that win. He's been so good lately. Yeah, I agree. And look, I said to Andy on the build-up show, sometimes the reward is the position. Sometimes the reward is being on that big stage and having a big match. And he's earned that. He really has. But that was my big fear, and sadly it did come true that he wasn't going to win the match. I'd say win a title, nowhere near a title, but look, next up we had a little tribute section to Hogan. We talked about this a little bit on the build-up show earlier on, but of course had quite a few tributes lately on WWE TV. Now, of course, you would imagine someone of that magnitude as far as star power and what they meant to that company, that he would get quite a few tributes. And SummerSlam is a show that he is quite synonymous with as well. So it wasn't really a surprise to see that here. Nice little touch, really. You see Son, a lot of people in the crowd dressed as him, and his theme song played in a kind of strange, surreal moment. I actually thought that might happen on the other tributes, because it's like, and we talked about the iconography of Hogan and his great theme song earlier on, but of course it's no secret that the last 10 years people struggled to kind of get hyped up about Hogan and his theme song hitting, and obviously it's not the same. It was done in tribute, but it was a nice kind of moment seeing people kind of enjoy kind of celebrating Hogan again. But again, it's a complicated situation. It's one of those things. It's something that people are going to talk about in depth for years to come. Of course, the final years of Hogan and how that complicates his legacy. But as Andy said, he's writing an article at the moment, so do keep an eye out for that. And I'm looking forward to seeing his kind of take on things further. Slow Sport says, rest in peace, Hogan. Not a great person, but a legend of his company. He did so much for WWE. Yeah, again, kind of a mixed situation there, isn't it? A lot, people would still argue it was great to certain people. But we all know how awful those things were, he said, and the lack of I guess not compassion. We lack of kind of awareness and kind of accountability, I should say. Really left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But look, let's get back to the show itself. That was a Hogan kind of tribute section, and it's complicated having to bring it up every time, but it's kind of, you can't do these conversations justice without actually mentioning that side of thing, I feel. So right, then we move into the women's title match, and again, another one where I liked what I saw, but I didn't like the result. Again, we talked about this in the build-up show. If it wasn't going to be a Bianca turn, which, hey, as much as I say I called the Seth Rollins one, I've been calling this for a long time and it still didn't happen. So, again, can't get more right. It weren't the lack of that annoyed me. It was the lack of kind of any progress. Like, why is Jade won the Queen of the Ring, gone up against Tiffany, who I think could do with losing that title, and didn't beat her? I just felt like it was a bit of a waste. Like, what are we doing next? Like, is Jade going at it again? Like, I really don't know where to go with this. I'll start with the positives though. Liked her gear. Cool kind of tribute to her Jamaican heritage. So that was pretty cool to see. The match itself was pretty hard hitting, to be honest. It was a great prettiest moonsault ever spot where Tiffany lands, but Jade's feet go up, not just into her face, but like directly in her chest, and she whacks hard backwards because of it. We get Jaded, and I like that they kind of played into what I think was a bit of a, I don't want to say botch, but but there was a moment, I think when she won the Queen of the Ring, where she pulled back on Asuka's legs. She kind of overdid it, and it looked a bit awkward, and kind of pulled Asuka's shoulder up a little bit and whatever else. They kind of, I feel like, just played into that by doing a similar kind of spot, but Tiffany's feet got on the ropes, because I was thinking, you're suspiciously far over that side of the ring there. But I thought it was a nice way to kind of to do that spot. Then Jaded was blocked, this time with a kind of roll back from Tiffany as well. And then a crazy, again, counter again for a top rope Jaded, where Tiffany just kind of just flipped almost and flipped Jade over. It was a kind of crazy, speedy spot. And one that led to the end, again, in a very good, speedy fashion, because she hit the prettiest moonsault ever. And that was it. And again, this time my note is just simple. Nice ending, but really, like, I really don't like some of the results on this show. It just felt pointless. Look, not every winner of a tournament or number one contender should become champion, but like, what are we doing here? Like, why? Why is Tiffany still? And that sounds like I don't like Tiffany. I do like Tiffany, but what's she doing next? And where's Jade go from here? Look, again, I know people will say, "What's the show?" You'll find out, but man, sometimes the show is just a big show, and that's when those storylines should click and change and progress. And when they don't, it kind of annoys me, because again, it's just an example of a match that a good performances, but just not the ideal ending. Then we moved into talking about good performances. Jelly Roll singing voices for Randy Orton. Nice little moment there. It's your typical celeb match, or so we thought. It was kind of different. Like, it was a lot longer than I expected, and a lot longer than it needed to be, if I'm honest. I think people perform well in this match. But like, it was a bit overkill. Logan straight away was getting cheap shots on Jelly, and he wants in quickly as well. He starts using his power, and it's that kind of typical thing where the bad guy acts kind of surprised and shocked, especially the outsider. Logan played this role really well, by the way. I think, again, people talk about the irony of him kind of being annoyed about outsiders, but like, it actually really showed how much he gets the performance side. I thought he was fantastic in his role. Lots of Randy Orton announce table spots, which I feel like we get quite a lot in Randy Orton matches these days. People getting knocked into announce tables and things like that. But then there was a fantastic spot where Logan Paul did a incredible frog splash from the top rope over Drew and then onto Jelly Roll on the announce table, which broke down And this really kind of signified the beginning and the end, really, as it would seem at the time for Jelly Roll, who was really taken out from this. It was a lovely looking frog splash, but I didn't. It's awkward. He's not pro or anything, is he? But like, he was awkwardly bracing for the fit, like leaning forward, looking, because he was kind of awkwardly laid on the table. So I felt kind of bad for him because it was obviously weren't as out cold as the commentators were trying to put across. He was waiting for the move. But hey, it is what it is. I thought he performed very well considering. Might have awkwardly set up, then awkwardly set up the next bit as well, because they did the whole kind of, he's going to get taken to the back, but it took ages. He fell to his knees, and then like they kind of redid that spot almost again and just brought him back in the ring once Randy Orton took control. Maybe it took too long for Randy to get back in control. I don't know. Sold it for ages, goes back in, chokeslams Logan Paul, hits the black roll slam as Michael Cole dubbed it on Drew. Then a kind of what was it? Not like a what was the move? The one that Randy Orton does, the snap. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's only 3 a.m. here in the UK. RKO and Drew and Logan Paul hits the pull from Grace, I think it was called, the frog splash, and picks up the victory. I was surprised by this one. I actually thought the kind of new celebrity, if you will, and Jelly Roll would have actually won here, and it was going to be a feel-good moment. It wasn't, and I think this is where the show kind of made me realize the pacing was off. We looked at the card earlier on and the leaked order of it, and I thought, I can't see any issues there, but delivery-wise, as far as anticlimactic results, I just felt like this wasn't good pacing. And then you had this match, which I think did drag a bit too long. And then we moved into the next match, which was supposed to kind of drag because of the story they were telling. Like Punk was just going to get beat up essentially, but it kind of added to that same issue, But look, it ended on a high. Don't get me wrong. It was a fantastic ending to the show. But let's break down the match itself first of all. CM Punk going up against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Had a nice little promo package earlier on, told their story quite well. Also revisited both summers of Punk, the 2005 one, the 2011 one. I'd love to know where they got that sound clip of Punk speaking and the image of him with the ROH Championship from. But nice little promo package. Straight away though, he's battered. That was the story they were going to tell, which again made me think all along Seth's gonna come in and cash in here, but I was trying not to get too kind of hyped about that, and then therefore disappointed, because again at this stage I'm thinking decent show, but like nothing spectacular, and I didn't want to be disappointed by Seth not coming back because he's like legit injured, for example. So I was like, you know what, find something to hold on to, right? The more realistic one, the one that seems like it's in your hands because it's right there, right? There's a match between one guy and one guy. Pick who you want to win. And for me, I thought, you know what, if Punk wins the title, that'll be a pretty cool moment in itself. So I thought, you know what, okay, the story they're going to tell here is either going to be Punk somehow overcomes the odds, or he does, but Seth Rollins is going to come out. So I thought, you know what, I'm setting myself up for something positive here, because I had a good feeling that Punk was going to win the championship at least. Gunther did some trash talking, said who's the kid now, and was really, really working this well. I think he played into his role fantastically tonight. I said this again on the build-up show to Andy earlier on. I felt a bit bad for Gunther recently because his past few feuds have all been about someone else. Jey Uso, Gunther, and now CM Punk and Seth Rollins, essentially. But he's done his job, and I think he's done it well. He's had some fun matches in that. Who knows where he goes next? But for me, I really enjoyed what he did in this match. Did it drag a bit? Yeah, it did. Maybe that's because it was 2 a.m., which is not that bad, really, considering other shows that we usually stay out for. It started a little bit earlier, didn't it? CM Punk goes for the sharpshooter. It doesn't quite work out, but Gunther gets in one of his own. Punk keeps trying to fight back. Has a bit of a bloody chest, and I thought, ooh, bit of blood. That was nothing compared to what we're going to see later on. Gunther catches a GTS and hits him with a powerbomb instead. There's that beautiful drop kick that Gunther does as well. Really knocked Punk into the corner. That was so very cool as well. It makes me laugh. Like, I'm writing all these notes for these massive spots, and then I'm like, amazing drop kick. Sometimes when it's done right, the basics are just so impactful. It's a great lesson, I guess, for kind of for wrestlers out there. Gunther bragging, really kind of trying to, I guess, take advantage of Punk, but then kind of taking his eye off the ball as well. Similar spot to, and again, it made me think of the Money in the Bank, because when Punk whacked Drew's legs at WrestleMania and kind of caused him to get cashed in on, it was a similar spot here, but he, swiping him the other way. Gunther falls down, and then I saw him coming out from underneath the table, and like his thigh had blood on it, and I thought, oh, I was like, is that a continuation of the blood that we saw on Punk's chest? Is that kind of bleeding even more, and I haven't really noticed? Nope, that was Gunther's blood, because when he came out of there, the boy was wearing a crimson mask, as they say. Crazy amount of blood. Now he gets in the ring and he looks like genuinely concerned. They start saying on commentary, "Oh, has he broke his nose?" And I thought, "Is this legit?" And I thought, "Nah, it can't be. It's too convenient." Anyway, he looks concerned, and he looks kind of, he's gone from bragging to almost begging, and I thought it was a really cool kind of switch in the character in that moment. And, a fear for what Punk was going to do, essentially. And he didn't like the sight of his own blood and whatever else. I thought it was a very cool story they were telling. Punk hits the running knee, hits the elbow, goes to set up for the GTS, hits the little pose for it, but it's counted into a sleeper. Eventually, though, Punk does get out of it, hits a beautiful GTS on Gunther, who now is, again, a bloody mess, spits up in the air, and kind of just doesn't really fall to his back or anything, because he's this giant that needs to be conquered by Punk, essentially, who finally has the strength to pick him up for a second one and hits him with GTS. Lovely moment there. CM Punk wins. Everybody's happy. Or so we thought, because burn it down, CM Punk is now shocked because Seth Rollins' music hits. And I'm thinking at this point, Seth Rollins is now cashing in, right? But then he comes out in like a suit and with the knee brace and on crutches, and I'm thinking, okay. I hope they haven't just gone, and that's how the commentators tried to play it off. I'm not just going, just remember me, I'm coming after you, I'm ruining your moment here, because you got to think about me in the future. I thought, no, it can't just be that. Then Heyman kind of walked to the side a little bit, and Seth starts walking back, and I kept thinking, he's going to stop. And as soon as he stops, you just knew his demeanor changed. He took off the brace, he took off his clothes, he took off the crutches, and made his way to the ring to challenge CM Punk, cash in the briefcase, batters the man with the briefcase, and picks up the victory. Seth Rollins is your world heavyweight champion. And it's funny how things work, right? Because when he was in that position a few years back, I just kept thinking, oh, cool, but like, eventually you're going to lose this title, right? I just kept wanting to lose it, essentially, because I wanted different things for that belt at the time. But he kept it for a long time. And now I'm like, yeah, he's the champ. It's just so funny how it works. And when he won the Money in the Bank, I was like, oh, why? Like, we've been here before. We don't see it again. But as I said on the build-up, as I said when we came on air for this instant reaction stream, like, how do you outdo the heist of the century? Well, you do this. I can't remember what Cole called it now, but like, yeah, it was amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And like, I'm so glad that's what it was. I said to Andy on the build up earlier on, how I thought it was suspicious that that Becky was conveniently putting up pictures of him on crutches and that he was backstage. And don't get me wrong, I reckon they probably did work a lot of people. But I'm not saying I'm a genius and I knew this all along and whatever. Because there were probably people working in WWE that had no idea, or maybe an inkling or whatever, but they didn't know. I didn't know he was coming back, and that the injury was fake. But I just had a feeling, and I was hopeful, not only because I want a good storyline, but of course I don't want anyone to be seriously injured or anything like that. But it's just the way it was executed against LA Knight that I thought, like, this is the kind of character and this is the kind of stable where they would come up with a plan like this, where in storyline they would be willing to basically take a loss to get the ultimate prize, but also, like at the kind of, the kind of expense of someone they hate, like, and kind of petty, doing it in such a petty way. And I thought it was so clever. Like, I'm so glad that this was the case. I'm so glad they did this. It was a fantastic moment, one that I think will be remembered for a long time. I saw people earlier on on social media, sharing the clip of when Kevin Nash stood up from the wheelchair and he takes off the blanket and he's, the cast isn't really his leg and whatever else. I thought, it did remind me of that. One is funny as that. It wasn't the same kind of effect, but it was a similar kind of gimmick, I guess, if you will. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Great execution. And again, so many things on the show I thought were executed really well as far as the physical performance. It was just the results that I didn't really kind of see eye to eye with. But overall, a fun show. That last moment, that last match, and that last kind of closing scene really lifts it for me massively. Again, I was coming on air before that thinking, man, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to, but I felt like I was going to focus more on the negatives. But thankfully, these things kind of change when you're swayed by a huge moment that is a huge talking point going forward. I think this creates a great kind of story going forward, and it's more fuel to the fire after CM Punk Seth Rollins storyline, as if that needed it. Do you know what I mean? And I feel it was really well executed. So I'm so pleased we saw what we saw at the end, because I don't even care that he's the champ. It's just weird. It was just the moment. The moment is enough. All right, maybe this will make the stable kind of get a shot in the arm and stuff like that. I said it on the build-up show with Andy earlier. They were basically hinting that, they had a bit of a backup, a plan B almost, and they would do anything and that kind of stuff. And it makes sense now. And I think it's really given, as I say, the stable a shot in the arm they really needed. And it definitely gave the show a shot in the arm and me a shot in the arm, because I was starting to lag at the end there. But again, a very cool ending to the show. But hey, that's not it, guys. We're going to be back tomorrow for the build-up show for Sunday night's extravaganza. It's the night 2 of SummerSlam 2025, of course, coming to you live from MetLife Stadium out there in New Jersey. Thank you to everyone that joined us for our build-up show earlier on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially what we do on this channel is get you guys and us hyped up for the big PLE. We talk last-minute rumors, we talk, match order and stuff like that. We break down all the kind of recent stories going in and around the big events as well. And yeah, we did it earlier on for night 1. And we're going to be doing it for night 2. You may even be watching this as a replay on the early part of the build-up show. So stay tuned if that's the case. But if you're watching in real time with me on whatever night it is, subscribe and be back essentially for our build-up show on night 2. But this has been your instant reaction review for, again, quite a newsworthy show, but maybe not as much as I hoped it would be. As I said earlier on tonight, we're not going to get all the surprises, are we? We're not going to get Seth's cash-in and Bianca Belair turns. It's not all going to happen at once. But what I will say is, what they did at the end was fantastic. What the performers did in ring, really enjoyable. The pacing of the show, not ideal for me. It did drag a bit, but look, we can't fully judge SummerSlam as an event anymore until we step back and see both nights. That's, again, how it's been with WrestleMania the past few years. And look, we might come away from it just like I did with WrestleMania this year, going, yeah, it was all right, but it could have been better. That might be the case, but I'm really hoping that's not going to be the case, and that night 2 is really going to knock it out of the park. But when you've got a big story coming out of night 1 like this, that kind of patches over some of the questionable decisions, in my opinion. So, hey, maybe that's not going to be the case on Sunday. We won't need patching over because we're going to have some big stories coming out of it regardless. Big matches as well. Look, not only do we have John Cena and Cody Rhodes, we've got a TLC match, which I think could certainly steal the show as well. Triple threat for the women's world title. You've got a cage match. It does feel a bit top heavy, right? It does feel like they've maybe overly stacked night 2 in comparison to night 1, which again could mean a positive kind of thing for us essentially to enjoy night 2 even more, and it kind of gives us a little bit more of a well-rounded view of SummerSlam 2025. But hey, that's it for night 1. It is in the books. Again, thank you so much to everyone that's joined us. We do appreciate you. If you're new here, please subscribe to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. It's not just instant reaction reviews. It's not just build-up shows. We also get to talk to your favorite WWE superstars and ask them the questions that you want asked as well on this very channel. So if you haven't already, check out those on this channel. I've been Scott. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and we'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.